Welcome back to Son of a Preacher Man. Soapman is in the house. One of the most misunderstood and misrepresented stories in the Bible is the story of Moses. And one of the most misunderstood and misrepresented parts within that story is that of the burning bush. Moses is one of the most prominent figures in the Holy Bible, and that's saying a lot. In the story of Moses, God speaks to Moses through a burning bush. Now, out of the many and various mysteries that stem from the Bible, this particular occurrence is clearly one of the more miraculous. In the greater story of Moses itself, this is a landmark event and a pivotal moment in Moses' personal life. Now, of course, I'm leaving out a few major and minor details, but I just want you to get the gist or the general idea of what is currently believed today.
Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground.
What you just saw was a clip from a scene from Cecil B. DeMille's 1956 film, The Ten Commandments, starring Charlton Heston as Moses. Now, I want you to attempt to wrap your mind around what you just saw. And you don't need to see it again. You saw it right the first time. What you just saw was Charlton Heston pretending to be Moses, talking to a burning bush, and I'll be damned if the bush wasn't talking back. Now, if you're familiar with this channel, you know what the Soapman thinks of stuff like this.
Icketus ficketus sumba kazing. I want your attention, everything.
Folks, in 1956, when this film came out, this was the best we could do. This was our understanding of scripture, and this is what we believed in 1956. It is 2026, and this is still the belief of how this story went. This is what is still believed to this very day. That Moses spoke to a burning bush and that it spoke back. That is what we believe. And the way we justify it is, hell, I don't know, God's magical, spiritual, holy power. It certainly has never been explained, but what I want you to realize in this present moment is that people of faith believe in talking, burning bushes. Yes, they do. That's no slip of the tongue. Yes, they do. They believe a bush talked. And I'm not even trying to be funny. Grown people with degrees in education, they believe a bush talk. They took they took the precedent that this film set, the standard that this film set. Of course, the people who made this film and spent all this money on this film couldn't possibly be wrong about a talking bush. No one challenged it. And every movie that has been made about Moses has followed lockstep this line of thinking. Talking bushes, people. And if you believe in talking bushes also, I want you to own up to it. Leave it in the comment section with your name and email address. So why did this stick? Why when the Ten Commandments came out in 1956, did nobody question it? Why did nobody push back? Why did nobody challenge it? Well, I'll explain why. Because it's because the Ten Commandments was just no ordinary movie. This was the biggest movie with the biggest budget and the biggest production of its time.
The budget ballooned to $13 million. That's over $140 million today, making it the costliest movie Hollywood had ever seen. When the Ten Commandments finally hit theaters, it wasn't just a movie premiere. It was a cultural earthquake. The film raked in an astonishing $65 million in its original release. That's over $700 million today. This movie didn't just dominate the box office, it became a tradition.
The narrator said that this movie became a tradition. And tradition would be an understatement. This movie became law. If you think I'm making fun of Cecil B. DeMille, I'm not. If you think I'm making fun of his film, I'm not. I'm stating the cold hard facts. This is the best that we've been able to come up with. We believe in talking bushes. That is how we interpret scripture. That is what we think the Bible is telling us, that a fiery bush spoke. This film set a standard. And all the films and everyone who saw it and all the producers and filmmakers who made films after it followed it like lemmings. They just bought into it. This is what happened, and it became tradition.
I am that I am. I am the God of your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
That was a scene from Disney's The Prince of Egypt. And as you can see, just like in the film The Ten Commandments, Moses speaks to a burning bush, and the burning bush speaks back.
Do you remember the old forest on the borders of Buckland? Folk used to say there was something in the water that made the trees grow tall and come alive. Alive. Trees that could whisper. Talk to each other.
Okay, so before we go any further, let's get some context and hear the story straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Exodus chapter 3 verses 1 through 4 reads, "Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert, and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called out to him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses." So you see, this is a two-part miracle, okay? It's two miracles running as one, or running into each other. On one hand, you have the bush not being consumed by the fire it's engulfed in. On the other hand, the bush talks.
Who made man's power? Who made the deaf, the mute, the seeing, or the blind? Did not I? Now go!
This first part really interests me. And it's very telling in that what initially gets Moses' attention is that the bush is engulfed in flames, but is not consumed. It's what initially sparks Moses' curiosity, causing him to investigate. He knows he's seeing something that doesn't make sense. He knows that he's seeing something that should not be. According to all that he's seen and learned and experienced, this does not happen. And it's very telling that that's what initially draws him in closer. And it's also ironic that what he could not believe is the very thing that we believe. See, Moses knows that a bush cannot be engulfed in flames and not be consumed. So he moves in for a closer look because he doesn't believe it. But we don't have a problem believing that. We just chalk it up to God's holy, magical, spiritual power, and we sleep great at night. But Moses isn't satisfied with what he's seen from a distance. So he moves in closer. And as he gets closer and closer, things begin to become more lucid. Things begin to become more clear. And as this burning bush, which wasn't consumed, as mysterious as that is, if that wasn't mysterious or spooky enough, as if it wasn't spooky enough that this bush that was engulfed in flames wasn't being consumed, the burning bush then speaks to Moses. It calls his name. And folks, that's all she wrote. That's the story. There it is. There's nothing more. There's nothing more to tell. But is it really? Is that all there is to tell? You know, I wonder, what if I'm not buying into your burning bush theory? What if I don't believe that? What if I think you're an abject lunatic? What if I'm not so quick to believe in talking bushes? Okay? What if I require a little bit more, a little extra persuasion? Am I going to hell for that? You gonna condemn me for that? For not wanting to go against science, common sense, and rationale? Maybe some of us are not so easily persuaded. What if some of us would like to probe a little deeper before we subscribe on to burning talking bushes? Maybe we want a little bit more evidence and proof before we resolve ourselves to believing in talking plants.
Does this look inanimate to you, punk? If I can talk and I can move, who's to say I can't do anything I want? Feed me Seymour. Feed me all night long.
It's talking, Mary. The tree is talking.
Tree? I am no tree.
Tree herder. A shepherd of the forest.
Don't talk to it, Mary. Don't encourage it.
Now, I know a lot of you will say, Soapman, don't be silly. You know it wasn't a burning bush speaking to Moses. It was the spirit, or rather the angel of the Lord, speaking to Moses from the midst of the bush. As if that makes it any better. Folks, if you think you save face by twisting and turning it, or technically making it a man within the burning bush speaking to Moses, let me just tell you that doesn't make it any better. In any kind of way that you want to twist it, or at least every kind of way that I've heard this twisted around does not make sense. I propose that you have never gotten a clear answer on this subject. You have to this day not gotten a satisfactory understanding of what transpired with the burning bush. So let me start with the burning bush talking to Moses. First of all, let me say that bushes of any sort, burning or not, do not talk. And you should never accept this for an answer. Someone telling you that, oh, well, God can just do that. That's not an answer. Someone who says this is due to God's holy magic power that's not an answer. Someone who bristles up and tells you that you're questioning God and that you shouldn't question God, that's a cop-out. So let's acknowledge first and foremost that bushes do not talk, burning or otherwise. And there's a good reason bushes don't talk. You see, bushes don't have vocal cords. That's one of the things that comes along with talking. That's actually a rule that God made. Man didn't invent talking. God gave man the equipment and capabilities to talk. And he didn't give that to bushes. The only way a bush could talk. Furthermore, I don't even believe that the Bible is suggesting that a bush talked. We just are misinterpreting or misunderstanding what we're reading, and we're too proud to admit it. But if that's not good enough for you, Numbers chapter 12 verses 1 through 8 reads, let me just set the scene for you. In these passages, God is speaking with Moses, and he's also speaking with Moses' older brother and sister, Miriam and Aaron. And God says, he says, now hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. Now let me read that one more time for you. Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. God is telling you how he communicates with prophets. First of all, God says he only speaks to prophets. And then he even goes further and tells you how he communicates with them. He says through a vision or a dream. So God does not speak like you and I speak. He does not have vocal cords which allow him to speak that way. If he speaks through a person, then yeah, he's speaking through them. But God himself does not have vocal cords. He does not have a need or a use for vocal cords. He made vocal cords when he graced us as human beings with speech and the ability to talk. They're not for him. Now, as far as the fire that did not consume the bush goes, fire, like plant life, lives by its own set of rules. It presents with its own design. It obeys the laws of this reality of life. It's been around a long time, since long before man, and it has always been the same. It has always been fire. It has always done what it does. And this instance with Moses is no different. There is a logical reason as to why this bush was not consumed by these flames. We just have not figured it out yet. But folks, you don't get to just fill in the blanks. There is no trick here. There is no magic or supernatural power at work. There is no holy power preventing this plant from being shriveled up and burnt to ashes by these flames. There is no trick with this burning bush that Moses encounters. There is only a misunderstanding of what the author is trying to convey. In order to get the answer to this, you gotta do three things. First, you gotta get your mind out of this magical place, and you gotta get your mind away from the possibility that things can magically happen or even supernaturally happen. God does not work through those methods. A miracle may be something you don't understand, but that doesn't mean it's magic. That doesn't mean it's supernatural. In fact, the Bible never explicitly uses the word supernatural. So first, get your mind away from this magic holy power that God got, which is really just another way of saying magic. Okay, so the second thing is a process of elimination. You sit and think about what this could possibly be, and you rule it out based on the evidence you got. I should also include that you gotta understand what's going on around in the environment. When you're trying to figure out stuff, it helps to know the scenery. Where is Moses at? He's on a mountain, and all the things that come along with mountains in general. I myself happen to believe that he's on an active volcano. I just want to show you how when you initially don't understand something, you can use ration and logic to come up with a better answer than magic, or than supernatural, or than God's holy power. So if you know the landscape, and we do, Moses is on a mountain, the Bible calls it Mount Horeb, so you can look for clues as to how the environment may play a role in what you're trying to figure out. You get what I'm saying? Last but not least, put yourself in Moses' shoes. He's seeing something that he doesn't understand himself. He's seeing it for the first time, and he's trying to describe it. And that's not easy to do. And so he's doing his best to describe something that he really has nothing to compare it to. If you look at this occurrence with the burning bush through a scientific lens, meaning look at it with a rational mind, look at it with what you know to be true, with the clues being all of God's known creation, then you can only come to one conclusion. This could only be one thing. There's only one rational, scientific, logical explanation for the occurrence of the burning bush. There's only one possible solution to this conundrum. It could only be one thing. Let me ask you something. If you were Moses and you were living in ancient times, what would you call lightning? If there was no word for lightning, the word hadn't been invented yet, if the word was not in existence, what would you call it? How would you explain this occurrence of lightning to your audience if there was no word for lightning? Well, I'll just tell you. People in ancient times called lightning fire. They simply called it fire. What else you gonna call it? What would you have called it? The boom boom stuff? Lightning comes in all shapes, sizes, and designs. It doesn't just strike like you see outside your back door, back porch, or back window. And people who study lightning know what I'm saying is true. Now, what I personally believe that Moses saw was a phenomenon known today as ball lightning. And that's my opinion. I have the right to my own opinion, and that's what I believe he saw. But one thing is for certain. The only way that flames could engulf a bush and not consume the bush is if the flames were lightning. That's the only way. That's your only alternative other than So those are your two choices. Either the bush was engulfed in electrical activity, or God magically genied out of his lamp and zapped it with his holy magic supernatural power. Take your pick. Take your pick. I choose that it was electricity, and I'm going to prove it to you in my next video. For now, that's all, folks. I will not hold you any longer. I'm going to end this episode, but first I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of Son of a Preacher Man. If you have any compliments, comments, insults, or inquiries, please leave them in the comments section. If you have any topics you'd like me to discuss or questions that you'd like me to answer, please leave them in the comments section. If you just want to fight and argue, jump it off in the comments section. Until next time, same soap time, same soap channel, Soapman. Deuces.